Fred, working away.
Listen, if you have questions while the live stream is on, hit me up on Twitter.
The live stream is on. Freddie wants you to hit him up on Twitter. I'm
following it. Let's go.
This is Prep Extra Live post-game show after Week 9. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Week 9, because I guess next week's Week 10. It's hard to believe we've already played 10 weeks, Freddie, when you count Week 0 and now you count, this week as well. But that's exactly the case. And, I was talking with you before we came on the air. I don't know that there was anything really shocking that happened tonight. Usually we come in here and there's like, oh my God, can you believe this? Can you believe that? What's the most shocking thing that happened tonight?
I think, one, the game I was at, the final score, the fact that San Dimas mercied Covina tonight, 42-0, running clock in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
I mean, I was on here. We did our 2-minute drill. I thought Covina was going to win this game. I actually felt pretty comfortable with it. Covina's only 2 losses this year. We're at Baldwin Park in overtime, Claremont on a last-second field goal, and I just thought that the timing was right for them to get them, set up that Week 10 showdown next week with Northview, and that game is on. I mean, San Dimas looks like a team now. I'm seriously going to start thinking about when we get into Mid-Valley Division predictions in another week. They're going to finish the season next week. They get rolling. They're going to win that game. They're going to be rolling into the playoffs. And I talked to Coach Mark Holman afterward, and he says, look, they're peaking right now. They're playing right now, and this is the way you want to be playing football.
Not only did you talk to them, not only say anything.
Yeah, they gave me a helmet.
Yeah.
I was they were giving me a hard time about that prediction. I heard there was some chants in the crowd on the other side on San Dimas. Some of them didn't like some of my tweets. I'm sure they were just having fun. I was saying, how do you not like my tweets when you're up 42-0 in a game?
Yeah, right.
It's bad to say.
Right.
But Saints were really, really, really good, Aaron, offensively, defensively.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't see them earlier in the year. You did.
But that Covina Northview game still has some meaning though next week. If you're Covina.
Well, yeah. I mean, it sets up a situation now. There could be a 3-way tie for the Valley West League title if Covina beats Northview next week and San Dimas, as expected, beats Roland. Then you have a 3-way tie and a coin flip situation, which can get kind of hairy for the team that loses out and finishes third.
Right.
And that's going to be a third-place team that no league champ wants to play.
Right. And
I really think after tonight, though, after watching, that game, I've got to believe Northview is going to be able to handle this game.
Right.
Against Covina.
But as far as San Dimas is concerned, they are no worse than second place.
Worse than second, right.
That's outstanding for them. And you're right. They're going to be a team to be reckoned with when you start talking about the playoffs. If, again, the big if with San Dimas, if they get their flow, if the game doesn't get away from them, if this or that doesn't happen, if they're able to dictate the pace of the game and knock it out of their comfort zone, San Dimas is going to be a very, very tough out. The game I was at tonight, the Angeles League has become one chaotic mess, and you can thank St. Francis for that. Last week, St. Francis beat Cathedral. They were 0-2 in league. Cathedral was in first place. This week, St. Francis beat St. Paul, who was technically above them. And now St. Francis is, I guess they're in a tie for second place is the best way to put it. Here's the situation. Cathedral beat Harvard Westlake tonight, so they're both 3-1 in league. St. Francis has beaten Cathedral, but they've lost to Harvard Westlake, and St. Francis is 2-2 in league. St. Paul is 2-2 in league. And I don't know the Salesian score from tonight, but I would imagine that.
Let's see if we can find it real quick.
Yeah, I would imagine that they won, and if they did, then they're 2-2 in league, if I'm not mistaken. So the point is, Freddie, this is real simple for St. Francis if you're talking about the playoffs. Beat LaSalle next week, and you're in the playoffs. They'll be 3-2. That'll get them somewhere in the top 3, and they'll get a guaranteed
St.
spot.
Paul?
No, St. Francis.
They're going to beat LaSalle next week.
Yes, right. So they should finish 3-2, and they'll be in the playoffs. St. Paul now, they play Cathedral next. I believe they play Cathedral next week.
If my internet was moving any faster, I'd be able to help you out.
Yeah. The problem with St. Paul is that they have that tough game. If they can't win that game, there's a chance that the Swordsmen finish 2-3 at which place they'll need to get that at-large bid in the Angeles League, in the Southeast Division playoffs. We think that that league will get it, but of course there's a formula that CIF follows. You could have two teams from the same league bidding for the same at-large berth. That's what's scary about the situation, and I'll tell you right now who St. Paul wraps up with. It's not an easy game. St. Paul finishes with Cathedral on the road. So this league is totally chaotic, and I've learned, Freddie, from the past that the best thing to do in these situations with a league like this is not to try and figure it out until all the dust is settled. Until after Week 10, when all the scores are in, then you can kind of figure out, who goes where and who is what. The only thing we know for sure is that if St. Francis wins and goes to 3-2, they're going to be in the playoffs. You're going
to get 4 teams from that league. I mean, I'm pretty confident you're going to get 4.
I am too, but
see how.
Yeah, I am too.
They're 5 deep over there.
Right.
They're 5 deep, and it's 4 you almost would think would have to get in.
Right, I am too. This game tonight, Fred. We talked earlier this week about is St. Francis putting together. Just in time, getting hot, just in time to make a playoff run. Tonight I saw nothing that would make me think that that's not the case. St. Francis, St. Paul scored on its opening drive, a long methodical drive. After that, they got nothing. St. Francis had a couple big pass plays from quarterback Miles Bryant to receiver Jasher Foster. That's a rough combination. They had Jace Herrick running the ball tonight. Eric Nazarian, they think he's going to be back next week. I'm not sure they even need him, but they think he'll be back next week, which tells me he probably is back for the playoffs.
Yeah.
This team is really putting it together at the right time. If you look at the last 2 weeks on defense, they've allowed 21 points. They allowed 14 last week to Cathedral. They allowed 7 tonight to St. Paul. Offense and defense coming together at the same time. St. Francis, like I said, they're going to be a force now. I don't care where they go in those Southeast playoffs. If they're a number 3 team out of their league, if they're a number 2, they're going to be a force.
They really survived the scheduling this year, where they had everything was top heavy really in the beginning. They had to get in a position in these final 2 weeks where winning those games was going to give them a chance to get in the playoffs. Because it was hairy there for a while, Aaron.
Well, they had a 3-game losing streak.
Going into last week, it was hairy.
Yeah, it was.
Win that they had to have.
They were 0-2.
Now, this is how quickly you get your mojo back, though.
Right.
You win a big game like that last week. You see the end of the season. It's kind of near. You got the 2 weeks, and you got St. Paul and LaSalle, 2 teams that are really going to make you feel even better about yourself going in the playoffs. So you're right. Especially the sour taste they have last year, the way they lost in the playoffs. I think they felt like they could have won a championship last year.
Right.
I think they were everybody's favorite. This might be a little different way to go into the playoffs when you feel like you're going to be that team that maybe sneaks up on some people.
Right.
A team that that a lot of people weren't penciling into the title, and here they come. This is where Jim Bonds might be at his best too.
Right, exactly right. Yeah, great job by their coaching staff tonight. Once they kind of figured out what St. Paul was doing, they handled it, Freddie, the rest of the way. And that's the thing with St. Francis that we talk about, Fred. If you're going into St. Francis, or if you're playing St. Francis, it's not going to be good enough just to have a high energy level, a good energy level, to be excited for the game. You're going to have to trade X's and O's with that coaching staff. They're going to make adjustments in the game, and you're going to have to make adjustments with them or better their adjustments. I'm not sure how many staffs in the Southeast Division are ready to do that. And that's kind of the difference with that Angeles League and St. Francis. I think that they kind of have an edge in that department over some of the other teams. I'm not even saying St. Paul, but like the Cathedrals.
I think there's a lot of great coaching staffs in that division. I mean, you got Lamarado.
People will say, well, hey, Lacerna had no problem with them. Lacerna had no problem with it last week. But I'm just telling you, you're going to have more than just excitement to beat this team. You're going to have to be able to think your way through the game. Their coaching staff is that good. They do that good of a job. That's another reason why I think they have a big edge. But we'll see how this league plays out. And St. Paul, Freddie, let me just say this, very much improved. Yeah. I mean, that program is going in the right direction. They limit what they do, but they do what they do well. They just were a little undermanned. There are a few parts missing of a really good team, but that program is definitely going the right way.
Yeah. Let's get to some other games there, Aaron.
We've just
done Valley Vista, and we've just done the Angeles League.
Yeah.
How about the Palomares League?
Right.
What went down tonight? What we know is clear. Glendora, they got their big win.
Yeah, 35-14
over Claremont. That seals the Palomares League title for them. But what happened tonight, South Hills on a last-second 17-yard field goal beats Ayala 13-10.
Wow.
Bonita, as expected, beats Diamond Bar 26-7. And what you've got, Aram, now is a four-way tie for second place. All these teams with 2 losses, Bonita, Claremont, South Hills, and Ayala. And what makes this really great is these 4 teams are practically in the playoffs. These are playing games. They play each other next week. So you've got South Hills taking on Claremont and Bonita taking on Ayala. Win and get in games. I mean, the 2 winners will finish. I don't know how it is going to finish up second and third, but they'll both get in. We'll have to look at what the head-to-heads are and all that after we know who the winners are. But the winners of those games will get in the playoffs. It's as simple as that. And for teams like South Hills, I think that was a team. I think a lot of us kind of wrote off and said you had no chance. Bonita, a team that started so bad, you knew they were going to have to probably win out to get there. Now is in a position where they can get there with the win in the final week. And who knows how those games go? I mean, I didn't think South Hills would beat Ayala tonight. I had one of their assistant coaches who I talked to a lot sent me a text before the game saying we're going to beat them tonight. And I didn't even want to send his text out because I was kind of embarrassed for him, and I didn't want to embarrass him. And I'm the one laughing now. And then he sends me a one afterwards that we're going to win next week and we're going to get in.
Wow!
So a lot of fun, feeling good.
This is the time of year.
This is the way you want to end.
Right.
This is the way you want to go into a week 10
with
games like this. I mean, we
and to be playing well.
Yeah.
They're playing well.
Right. And the get over to the Hacienda League, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean the big game there tonight.
West Covina 42-28. What is that?
Tyler Nevins went off tonight, the running back from Los Altos, and you can kind of see Los Altos is starting to do or look and act and feel like how they did last year.
End of the year run?
Yes, end of the year run, giving the ball to Nevins, winning and losing with Nevins. And when that happens, Fred, he's one of the better players in the league, obviously. He's one of the better players in the division. That makes them extremely dangerous. West Covina couldn't stop it tonight.
Well, look, we just talked about the Palomares, right?
Yeah.
So now you got Diamond Ranch lost tonight, right? Diamond Ranch.
No, they lost to Chino.
Yeah. So you got Chino 2-2,
right?
Los Altos 2-2, West Covina 2-2, and Diamond Ranch 2-2.
Right.
Just like the Palomares, 4 teams tied for second.
Yeah.
With 2 losses, and when we go to the final week.
Yeah, West Covina's in trouble.
Charter Oak.
They have Charter Oak.
West Covina may
They're
not
in a little
make the
trouble.
They went from a situation where if they win, they're playing for the league title, to a situation now lose to Charter Oak.
Yeah.
And it looks like you're going to be out of the playoffs. Diamond Ranch is going to finish with Los Altos.
Right.
So the winner of Diamond Ranch Los Altos is going to get in, and Chino is going to finish with Walnut. They got to
feel good there, right?
Win that game.
So Charter Oak, Chino, and then either Diamond Ranch or Los Altos.
Wow.
Yeah.
West Covina's not going to get in the playoffs.
This has kind of been a lost season for West Covina, Freddie.
Wow.
We go back to the car accident. Yeah, the car accident in the summer where Isaiah Love, traveling with the Body by Trey crew, going up on an unofficial visit, gets in a fluke car accident, breaks a bone in his neck that he has not been cleared. That same day, by the way, that he goes up for that trip, they're in a passing league game against Matt Fink and Glendora. He chooses not to be a part of that. He chooses to be a part of the Body by Trey thing. Now you can from there you can form your own opinion whether you think that was cool of him or not cool, whatever. Yeah. You can form your own opinion.
I just think it's unfortunate, Aaron.
It is very unfortunate, but if you
and I don't think one player really is going to make West Covina's whole season. One player isn't the reason they're not in the playoffs.
Well, when you're talking about a kid that's a Washington State commit,
I realize he's a great player.
He's a Washington State commit, Fred. He was their top offensive weapon. He's their top, defensive guy too. He's a heck of an athlete, heck of a player. Hopefully, we'll see that, in college going forward. And then they lost their leading rusher from last year, Henry Martinez. They lose him on the first play of the first game this year to an injury. He hasn't been back. It's a lost season. I mean, for West Covina, that's really, really tough luck for the Bulldogs. I mean, because if you have Love and Martinez, I guarantee you they're going to be in the playoffs.
I don't remember the last time that West Covina missed the playoffs.
Now, why are you stuck on this Sarah
I was looking at
Twitter
the final
page?
because it just came up. So Sarah beats Alamany 41-34. That was a game that was going back and forth, back and forth.
Right.
And I'm looking at the Bishop Amat scenarios now because Sarah has won the league title. No matter what happens next week, even if they lost and finished a tie with Loyola or Amat, it wouldn't really matter because they won both those games. So Sarah is going to get the number 1 seed out of the mission. Now, with Loyola winning tonight and Amat on the bye week, that game next week, Bishop Amat at Loyola, is sole possession of second place. Okay. And, on paper, you look at comparative scores, you look at where they're ranked in the Pac-5, that is a toss-up game, I would say, on paper. That's a toss-up game.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
You think?
No. I think Amat lays over Loyola. For every Bryant and Long that Loyola has, Amat has 2 or 3 more of those guys.
Game over there, Aaron, I mean,
come on.
Look at Loyola beat Notre Dame tonight 45-14, and they've been hammering everybody not named Sarah.
Look, I saw Loyola play Amat last year. And I can't get it out of my head. Amat was just way better. Now, granted, that was last year. But again, if you want to stack Loyola up athlete for athlete against Amat lays over them. I know Long and Bryant, they're nice players and stuff like that. Pasadena guys, by the way. But they're not Vaughn, Sidney, Sweet, Gaston, and so on.
I get that, but
I guess anything can happen.
Good team, and they're at home.
All right.
And
anything can happen. Yeah, I understand that, but I would make Amat a 2-touchdown favorite easily to start.
I really believe these are clearly the 3 best teams in the Mission.
Yeah, the way it's played out.
Those two, I mean, both of those teams played Sarah tough.
Right.
The
way it's played out, you're right.
It's going to be it's going to be tough for the team that loses that game because the loser's got to play most likely a Pac-5 league champion in the first round.
That's the thing,
and it could be a one and done for that third place team.
Yeah.
But having said that, I do expect Amat to beat him, Aaron. I think it's going to be a tough game, but I do expect Amat to get through there and
I do too.
Finish 8-2 and we'll see who they get.
Stage is set in the Mission Valley League for next week, and how else would it finish, right? Arroyo and Rosemead are going to meet. Arroyo and Rosemead are going to meet in Week 10, both undefeated in league for the Mission Valley League title. That's a game that I'm relatively sure that I'll be at. Very exciting situation there whenever this happens. We love those league title games, Freddie. Not where if you win, you force a tie, but where it's just outright. Both teams are undefeated going into it in league, and the winner wins, the loser's second place. Love those high-stakes games.
And I think this is the only game now that we have.
That's a pure,
undisputed league title game.
Right. San Marino locked up the Rio Hondo League tonight by routing La Cañada. Monrovia, though, they went upside South Pasadena's head. I don't know if you have the final on that.
It should be.
I was shocked. That's the Rio Hondo, but you don't have the Rio Hondo in here. I was totally shocked, Fred. I picked South Pass in this game. You and me both saw South Pass last week. Yeah. I mean, look.
Here you
go. This is not pretty. I know South Pass lost its best player, but we'll have this final score here for you.
Is it in there?
Should be. It might be on that
second page. Aaron.
Yeah, on that page, right?
Yeah, but I'm missing some. No, this isn't it. Oh, I guess I didn't grab the second.
All right, it'll be on that page, right? Thank you.
No.
Yes, Monrovia 49.
South Pasadena 7.
Yeah,
yes.
So there you have it. South Pasadena, you're going to be a number 3 going on the road in the playoffs, and in all likelihood. Monrovia salvages that 2, Freddie. So they're going to be an interesting second place team for someone to play in the Hacienda, in the Central Division. These playoff scenarios are really going to be impressive because what you have this year are some pretty powerhouse teams that are going to be going in as 2s across all the divisions that we cover. They're going to, be some really traditionally good teams going in at 2s as 3s.
That's what I was saying.
And 3s.
We were talking last week when we had Stevie in here too. I mean, a lot of these divisions, the Southeast, the Central, the Mid-Valley, I mean, they've really done a good job. CIF has done a great job to me because there's not a lot of gimme games like there have been in the past with a lot of these. A lot of these third-place teams, I think, can give some of these league champions a run for their money.
Right.
And you're right, those 2-on-2 games are going to be great games. I mean, just look at the Palomares and the Hacienda that we're talking about tonight.
Right.
I mean, you've got 2 4-way ties for second going into the final week. I mean, it's crazy. And then there's those other teams like Colony that are out there. And who's another undefeated team? A Summit that's out there. I mean, there's some good teams in that Central Division, and we know what the Southeast is like. I mean, that's going to be a juggernaut from beginning to end.
Right, and we should talk about that now. La Mirada tonight, they had their quasi-league championship game with Mayfair. This is a game that we also don't have the final score for. Actually, we do. 52-7, it looks like. So, La Mirada... boy, oh boy. They might be angling for a top 4 seed in the Southeast Division when it's all said and done. They're going to be 7-3, so that's not as sexy as 9-1 or 10-0. But the 3 losses, we know to Bosco, Mater Dei, San Clemente. You look at this La Mirada team. Mayfair on paper tonight, was had the half game lead on them in the league standings. They beat them 52-7. This team's going to be very scary. La Serna, same thing tonight. They played Santa Fe in what amounted to the Del Rio League Championship game. La Serna takes care of Santa Fe relatively easy. 42-13.
Yeah. I told you that was
boy,
a game.
Oh boy.
Those are games that are just championship on paper.
Right. Well,
championship games on paper.
I'm not sure what the final was of Stevie's game. He did Montebello and Belgarden.
That game was running really late. That's why Stevie's not here. He's all the way out there.
Right.
That was like the last game of the night.
I think he probably went to the bicycle club.
Did we get a final score on that?
No, I think Montebello won, but we have them up by 9 in the third quarter.
Poor Stevie, one of those super long marathon games that.
Right.
Heck, I've been getting a lot of running clock games. My game's been over by 9:15.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, isn't it? Another score that we should mention tonight: Damien gave Chino Hills a good run for a little while, but ultimately Chino Hills wins that game 35-20. Damien, for all intents and purposes, now Freddie. No playoffs this year.
But I have to say this about Damien. I think they really battled. Against Chino Hills, they battled pretty good tonight. And I know Damien, the bar is set kind of high because they are a private school, because they've had somewhat of a history in football, because they have hired Gano, now followed by Paredes, and there's expectations over there. But I think this year they did take a little step forward. Not a big step, not what they wanted, but I think it's a step forward in the right direction to maybe next year.
It's slow,
this team gets in the playoffs and maybe they start doing something.
Damien's going to be one of those teams that we mention this every week, and yet I give another example of why Rob Wygod's new playoff system is a great thing. Because Damien might stay in that baseline league, Freddie, but they won't be in that division. I'm not sure what the division is. They'll be in a more
winnable?
Appropriate division for them. No, not winnable. I would call it appropriate.
What's winnable?
Okay.
What's the difference?
I prefer to say appropriate because where they are now, and you can say a lot of that.
How is that more appropriate? Being in the baseline, being a private school with Chino Hills, with Upland and those schools, that's appropriate. That's a league that traditionally for many years they've been competitive in, that they've won.
Who are they?
Damien.
No, they haven't.
They've been in the baseline before. This isn't their first
in the
rodeo
80s?
The baseline.
No, for the most part, they were in the Sierra League. They were in there with
Sierra League baseline. They play.
No, but they were in there. They were in the same league.
All of these teams, but a lot of those teams were also.
They were in the same league as Charter Oak and Glendora and stuff, and that's where they belong. And that same accompanying division. They're only in this league.
No.
They're only in this league, and they're only in this division because they won a court case.
Do you think Damien should be a
because they won? Hold on, because they won a court case that kept them from being in the Pac-5, from being in Bishop Amat's league. That's where they were going to be.
Right. Well, lucky them.
Yeah, lucky them. Well, there's a reason why.
Do you think they should be dropped into a more winnable division even more?
Yes, of course. Look, how are they handling this one?
Because I don't think they're Maranatha. I don't think they're LaSalle.
Well, they weren't handling being in the same league as Charter Oak very well either. And how did that turn out? I mean,
they're in an appropriate division for a team with the expectations that they have. There's you don't need to drop them down.
Their expectations don't matter. What matters is reality, and that's what's good about this playoff thing. Los Alamitos expects that it could compete in the Pac-5, but CIF says no, you're not in the Pac-5. That's the same thing here.
And what
Who cares
what Aram is saying, what he really likes is what could possibly happen. He is saying that if Damien finished third in the baseline next year, and the two league champions went into a different division, Damien could be dropped in a more winnable division. So
the Central or the Southeast.
Yeah, so they could put Damien in a more winnable division where they'd have an easier road to a championship than the two teams that they couldn't beat in their own league, which to me is absolutely ridiculous. It just is. It just is. You're rewarding mediocrity. If you want to move them to another league, then move them back into another league. But don't take teams from the same league and put them in different playoff divisions. Don't reward third place teams over first place.
We tried to leave it. We tried to leave it in the hands.
Coaches hate it in basketball.
No, look,
it won't work in football either.
Look, we tried this whole just allow the leagues to to league themselves, Freddie, and they can't do it. I mean, you saw what happened. This ended in a court case. You saw what happened with San Marino and Monrovia as far as staying in the Rio Hondo. Monrovia should have been moved to the Pacific League. But what happened?
Yeah,
the people that make the sections go, the ADs, the principals, the coaches, couldn't get that done. So CIF was left to sit there and say, we got to move Monrovia's whole league all the way up just because of Monrovia. That's not fair to South Pass. That's not fair to La Cañada. I mean, you think it's fair to South Pass to play in the Central Division?
I think right now, Monrovia, South Pass...
The Mid-Valley Division is much more suitable for South Pass.
I don't know. I think San Marino has a shot at winning the division. The second, they're the league champion. I think Monrovia can get to the semifinals in the Central Division. I think they're very capable. South Pass, a third-place team?
Monrovia, yeah, but Monrovia is the reason they moved.
What?
Monrovia is the reason that they moved. Is what I'm saying. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You bring your own chair to this set, Stevie. My point, you don't bring up Monrovia because Monrovia is the reason why the Rio Hondo League was moved in the first place. Because CIF had to find a more difficult division for them than the Mid-Valley Division. But the leagues, the part that CIF cannot control is how these leagues and areas league themselves. And instead of putting Monrovia in the Pacific League where they should have gone, the schools and whatever, the area, the section couldn't get it done and just left them in the Rio Hondo League.
And I get what you're saying.
And so that meant that now San Marino would win a CIF title this year if they were in the Mid-Valley Division.
They might win it in the Central Division.
But come on, Fred. If they don't, then we can sit here and say
they're the number 2 ranked team in the division.
They could have won it last year. They could have won the Mid Valley Division last year.
So they're in a division they can win.
So my argument.
What do you want to do?
What do you mean competitive? Competitive really isn't the point here, though. It's part of it, but it's not the total point. The total point is that San Marino is only in this division not because of anything that it did. It did nothing to deserve to be in the Central Division. It's only there because Monrovia's there.
You act like the Central Division like they're going in against a bunch of world beaters. These are light teams. Charter Oak, Los Altos, West Covina. These are light St. Gabriel Valley teams.
I'm sorry, but they're not. There ain't nothing like about Charter Oak and South Pass.
So when they win the championship, San Marino, or get to the finals, then what are you going to say? Is there nothing like those teams? Or do you got to see it first? I don't know what you're saying.
What I'm saying is that San Marino is only in the Central Division, not because of anything it did individually, but because it was in the same league as Monrovia, and they all got pulled up with Monrovia.
Yeah, and I thought,
and that's not right.
I thought it was a fair pull. I think that the division they're in is a fair division.
Not to the other 5 teams. Besides Monrovia.
Well, there's going to be
it's fair to Monrovia to be in the Central Division.
There's going to be teams in every league in those divisions where the bottom feeders, it's not going to be fair to. Is it fair to Walnut that they're in the Central Division because they're in the?
But they're not going to be in the Central Division. They're not going to be. They'll probably be in the Mid Valley Division.
No.
Under the new rules. They'll probably be in something like the Mid-Valley Division.
Right now, there's a lot of teams that are
right.
In that
well, you're using Walnut as a scenario. Walnut may stay in the Hacienda League, and Charter Oak will be in the Central Division, and Walnut will be in the Mid-Valley Division. That's good for Walnut. That's fair for Walnut. Diamond Bar should be in the Mid-Valley Division, not in the Central Division.
Your whole argument about the leagues not being able to police themselves.
They couldn't.
I would say there's a lot of leagues in CIF, and I'd say most of them do a pretty good job and get it right. There are going to be some exceptions. Long Beach Poly being in the Boyer League.
That's another example.
Exactly. But I'm saying there's only a few, I think, a handful of maybe examples you can make like that.
Okay.
And you're changing the whole system for those handful of teams when almost every other league gets it right.
Okay. Look, do you remember what happened?
This is the Long Beach Poly rule, to be honest. This is what this is. It's the Long Beach Poly rule.
Fair enough, Fred, but it's going to affect a lot more schools than Long Beach Poly.
Of course it is.
And it's going to affect a lot more schools positively.
And I guarantee
do you remember what happened with Damien during the last releaguing? Do you remember the process?
Of course I do.
They were part of the Catholic, okay? And the Catholic put them in the Catholic South League or whatever it was with Bishop Amat and some other teams where they didn't belong. They said, hey, that's BS. We should not be put in a league in this situation based on being a religious school, because for all intents and purposes, it was way too difficult of an assignment for Damien. So they won their.
It wasn't football, yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. I guess in basketball they'd be all right.
But in basketball they were dominating. Basketball was.
But in basketball we already have this playoff system implemented.
And most people
they'd have been an open division and Bishop Amat would be Division 4.
And most people don't like.
I don't agree with that. I'm not sure.
Most coaches and most people don't like it.
Well, I don't. I haven't heard that, but whatever. Whatever. It's definitely needed. So anyway, so Damien wins its court case, and now it gets put back. Okay, now find a place to put them. The section had to find a place to put them, and they put them in the Baseline League, where they currently are now. And that, again, I wish I knew what division the Baseline League falls under.
Well, I do think
they're in there with Rancho Cucamonga. They're in there with Upland.
And they put them in there for all sports.
They're in there with Chino Hills.
For all sports, it is a great fit if you're not going to be in a Catholic league. That's a great fit for them. It's a better fit than putting them in the Palomares, where in basketball they beat everybody by 40 points. In a lot of other sports they dominate too, because they are a pretty good sports school. In football, they would still be right there in the mix, battling for a playoff spot. But I think they're in an appropriate spot beating the Baseline. I think they got to get a little bit better to be a little bit more competitive, and they'll get in the playoffs next year, and they'll continue to move forward.
No,
I don't think you continue to drop them because
I'm
they
sorry,
can't live
but
up to a realistic
I'm sorry, but until that moment happens, Fred, they deserve to be in a more appropriate division, and that division is look, you could put them in the Central. They going to win the Central? They going to win the Central this year?
I don't think they would win it this year. No.
Yeah, I don't either.
No.
So quit acting like I'm putting them in Division 13. But I'm just saying it's more. It's a better fit for them.
I don't think like you. I don't think that every time you put someone in a division, it's about whether they can win it or not. It's about are they competitive in that division? Are they a team that gets to the playoffs and is a competitive one? Not that it's a team that you say is going to win it every year. There's only 3 or 4 teams in every division, 4 or 5 that can really realistically win. Right. And then there's going to be teams that
I wish that what you were saying.
The whole Amon argument all these years about you trying to get them out of the
Right. And let me bring out something else up from the past that'll just completely contradict what you just said. You were the one that said Charter Oak didn't belong in the Inland Division, a team that was making it into the second round every year. Well, that blows up your argument. You said, hey, I think all that matters is they just have to be competitive. Well, they were competitive, but you still said they didn't belong in the Inland Division.
Right, and I don't think they could
because they couldn't win the Inland Division. That is my point. And now you're saying no. All you got to be is competitive.
They're going to be able to win that, but that whole argument with moving Charter Oak was for their entire school.
No, I'm sorry. No, it wasn't. It wasn't, Fred. When you were arguing it, when we would talk about this back when Charter Oak was in the Inland Division, you felt they didn't belong in the Inland Division because they couldn't win the division. They would get up against an Upland or a Rancho in the second round. They could win their first round game and be competitive, like you said.
Right.
But when it came time to actually could they win the division, they had no shot of winning that division, and you felt they needed a relief. And you said the same thing. You said the same thing about Glendora. No, you said the same thing about Glendora. You said the same thing, that Glendora got totally shafted by CIF by being put in the Inland Division. Now you're saying what?
I'm saying I feel completely different about Damien because I think it's a whole different set of circumstances.
Oh, God.
It's not.
It's the same thing.
Different.
They have no shot of winning that championship, but you're saying they belong there because they're competitive. Charter Oak had no shot of winning the Inland Division, but you're saying they didn't belong there even though they were competitive. No. Same thing with Glendora.
They're a total perfect fit in the baseline, Aram. You have to.
They are not a total. They are more like Glendora than they are Upland or Rancho.
They're going to have
at this point.
They're going to have to get better.
No, I'm sorry, but they are more like Upland and excuse me, they are more like Glendora than they are Upland or Rancho.
I never thought Aram would have the whole AYSO mentality, wussification of high school sports.
It's not wussification.
Put these guys in these little divisions where they can.
No, I'm sorry, but it's not. It's not wussification.
Get better, Damien. Win where you're at.
But this is not what you were saying about Charter Oak and Glendora. You were not saying get better, Charter Oak. What's the different set of circumstances?
Private school where you can get people from all areas, all regions. I just think the ceiling.
But that hasn't worked for them.
Be way higher.
That hasn't worked for them. They had Gano. They could have gotten everyone that they wanted. Didn't work for them. They have Paredes now. They can get anyone they want. It's not working for them.
Yeah.
So how long do you keep them in this situation that's not tenable?
My whole premise, Aram, is I think the way that you want to do it, where you're dropping them from a league into a lower division where they're more competitive, is stupid. And I think what you have to do with someone like Damien, when you're placing these teams in all of these leagues, is that you've got to put them in leagues looking at other sports where it's appropriate. They are more appropriate for the baseline league, Damien as a school, than if you put them in the Palomares, because they'd be more competitive.
But we're no longer looking at schools, Fred. Yeah, Stevie doesn't feel that way.
Sneak in.
Outside of basketball, they're competitive. They're on the same level with the Palomares League. Like in baseball.
That's what I'm saying. In football, same thing. But again, you used this argument of competitive and not being able to win a championship. You didn't think Charter Oak fit in the Inland Division because they couldn't win a championship there, even though they were competitive. They couldn't win a championship. You said the same thing about Glendora. I remember when Glendora got moved, you were all up in arms about Glendora being moved because they have no shot to win that division.
If you go
but
back,
now you're saying Damien has no shot, but they're competitive. Your argument is completely contradicting.
No, when I talked about Charter Oak, and it went back to South Hills too, and I think I did say Glendora, although I thought Glendora had a better chance of maybe getting to that level where they
got moved there first, right?
Charter Oak and South Hills mainly.
But Glendora got moved there first, like 2 years before Charter Oak did, right? They got put in the baseline league, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Right. And you were up in arms. I'm not even sure I was here.
Charter Oak and South Hills. I wanted to see that experiment to see if they could play up. To me, it was playing up because that baseline league where they're playing it at the time. When you look at the demographics, when you look at the number of people in their school, I just thought they were way out of their league, what these public schools are capable of doing. I just don't have that same feeling with Damien. I just think, or like a St. Francis. I don't think St. Francis should be in the same league as neighboring good public schools over there. I don't. I think St. Francis, Damien.
Neighboring good public schools where?
Whatever they would be over there. If there was another, like the Pacific League. I don't think St. Francis would be a good
who's going to put
St.
Francis in the Pacific League?
What I'm saying is these kind of schools that have unlimited boundaries, that actually have resources, to have great.
Well, then what you're saying is the privates should all be in the same league.
I've always said that. Always said
that's where Damien was originally placed, and Damien said we cannot handle being in the same league as Amon.
When they send it back, I said they should go to the baseline. But I've been the one who's always felt that you should have a private school playoff and a public school playoff and let the champions meet in state playoffs. I've always felt that way because I think there are completely different set of circumstances when it comes to how you put teams together.
I'm telling you, man, this new playoff thing it takes care of these things.
Absolutely,
it completely cleans up the mess that these sections just cannot get right.
You're saying that now, but wait till next year when this actually happens, and wait till you hear all the little uproar when scenarios come out and teams are moved and they're going here, and some teams don't like going up because you took away a chance that they could have won a championship in this division, and teams that go down and win, and teams in their league that are in a tougher division, go out in the first or second round, and they're going to get all butthurt because of third place.
How about this? I'll wait for that. And then on the flip side, you wait for when the Pac-5 playoffs come out, and there's not Corona Centennial playing the third-place team from the Moore League. Instead, they're playing Mission Viejo to start. You wait, and then when you see Norco not playing, the first-place team from the Mission League, you'll understand, Fred, that there's not going to be any more Lakewoods and Norcos and all that stuff in these divisions.
They're
going to be in a much better division, and you're going to get playoff divisions that actually make sense from the first round forward.
South
Pasadena going to Charter Oak in the first round does not make sense on any level. South Pasadena is a mid-valley.
Rather than do it the way CIF is proposing it for next year, I think Joe Amott's gone back. If you look back the last 2, 3, 4 years when we've talked about this, the way to do it right, and I agree with Joe, is that you place these teams into leagues by sport, so that you do it competitively from the beginning.
Who does that?
And then do there's some leagues that do that. I have to look, but there's some leagues.
We try. Remember back with the last re-leaguing thing.
They do that. Bishop Amat. The Catholic league.
Yes,
they do that now.
Do you remember the last re-leaguing when someone proposed let's do football only leagues? The sections were a wreck. They couldn't do it. They could.
I think it's a better way to do it.
Yeah, but they can't do it.
I think it's
they can't do it.
I'm not saying what I'm saying. I'm saying it's a better way to do it. That would solve the Long Beach Poly situation.
Again,
because for football only, you put them in a league that's probably more.
You're relying on the sections to actually get it right, and they've proven time and again that they can't get it right.
In that case, in the parochials, they have a League A and a League B, and if you're in League B and you've won it, say 3 out of 4 years, then you bump up to League A, and the bottom dweller of League A drops.
It's called upward and downward mobility.
That's what they do.
And that's what's important here. What would happen for Damien is if they got moved into a different division, playoff division, than Rancho and Upland and the rest of the baseline league teams, and in that division experienced success, then they would eventually be right back up into that division that they're in now, or even higher. It allows for that kind of mobility to happen, and among other things, it allows for more competitive playoff divisions.
Am I right? Is this
the way it is now? Just has too many flaws.
This is just not football, right? This is going to happen for all.
Well, it's already in place for basketball. So
right? No, I understand that, but I'm saying. This isn't just a football-only rule next year. This is going to be something they try to do for all sports.
Yes.
What a disaster that's going to be. Just watch as we get down to the scenario. You're going to see
I don't agree that it's a disaster. And the fact is that it's got support so far. I mean, we'll see when they have the vote in January. That's the big one. But so far, the executive committee, has pushed it through, or agreed with it or thought it was worth continuing.
I remember Damien a few years when they won their first basketball title under Dunn. They beat Santa Margarita, a team that went winless in the Trinity. But because of the way these divisions were set up, and you can drop them down 3 or 4 divisions, they got to the championship game and got to play Damien. And I just thought it was the most ridiculous thing to watch a team that finished last in their league and couldn't win a game get dropped down in a division that they could win.
But that's not what's happening with football.
I'm just saying
in football you'll still need to be like a top 3 team.
I understand that.
You'll still need to
qualify. Have to qualify like you normally would.
You'll still need to qualify.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but maybe San Marino wins the Central Division this year. Maybe they make the semifinals and prove that they're definitely one of the top 4 teams. But going into this year and last year,
perfect scenario,
they've done nothing to say that they should be in this division.
So for you,
and I would hate to see San Marino have 2 CIF championship teams and never win a CIF title.
Let me ask you this.
And that's just one example.
Last scenario on this subject, because here's a scenario that might work under this whole thing next year.
Right.
You got San Marino and Monrovia finishing first and second in the Rio Hondo League going to the Central
this year.
So if this thing was usable this year, South Pass, a team that finishes 8-2, to you, they'd probably be better placed in the Mid Valley, where they'd have a shot to win a championship. Right?
Yes, to me, but I'm pretty sure to everybody else.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous to me.
How is that ridiculous?
Because you're. I just don't like. I mean, it is to me. So
how is that ridiculous?
8-2, they finished third.
What about South Pasadena?
You're saying to South Pass, well, you're not good enough to win a championship in the Central. We don't think you are, and so we're going to put you down to their Mid Valley, where maybe you're one of the favorites as a third place team, It just.
Do you
the whole thing sounds
understand,
ridiculous
though?
to me.
Do you understand that?
It just does. I'm
Do you
sorry.
understand
I don't
that?
think that
Yeah, I know you don't, Stevie, because you're logical. But what Fred's not getting through his head is the only reason South Pasadena is in the Central Division is because of Monrovia. Not because of anything it did on the football field, not because of any playoff runs the Tigers had, not because of any league championships. The only reason South Pasadena moved from the Mid-Valley to the Central Division is because the section could not get Monrovia out of the Rio Hondo League, and CIF said, "Fine, you're going to leave Monrovia in the Rio Hondo League. They've won this division 4 or 5 times. We're taking the rest of the league and Monrovia and moving them all up."
I'm just telling you, I think it's absurd.
What has South Pass done to be in the Central Division? What have they done to belong in there? What has Blair done to belong in the Central Division?
They've gone 8-2 and they finished 3rd in their league.
No. They didn't go 8-2. They were placed in the division before they went 8-2.
Yeah,
they were placed in the division last year.
That's their league. They've done pretty well in their league, and they finished 3rd.
No, they haven't done pretty well in their league. They've only. What are you talking? They got 2 league losses.
They are a 3rd place.
Their first 5 wins are over Mid-Valley teams. What are you talking about?
They're a 3rd place team that can go into the Central and maybe give a league champion a competitive game. What do you want?
Based on what?
What do you want?
Based on what?
So you think 3rd place teams, you got to put them in divisions where they can win it? I don't
Yes,
think
or be competitive. South Pasadena has no business playing Charter Oak in the first round. None. Do you understand? Again, they are only in this division because they got dragged up with Monrovia, like the rest of the league. Not because of anything they did on the field to earn it. They didn't earn being in the Central Division.
I'd really be.
They were placed in the Central Division because of Monrovia.
I'd really be interested, and I hope a lot of people comment on this thread when we put it up and we talk about this exact same subject. Because I'd really like your thoughts, aside from these guys who think I'm not logical. I'd really like your thoughts on that scenario we just posted. That in the Aram and Steve's scenario, that they think South Pass would be better off going to the Mid-Valley Division and having a chance to win a championship there, while Monrovia and San Marino, who've played great in their league, have to go into a tougher division to win their championship. If you think that's the way it should be, let's hear it, because I would love to hear that discussion on the blogs and see what people think.
Well, I
think you guys are absolutely crazy.
I would love to hear from
That's
you.
just my thoughts.
I would love to hear from you again. I've asked you this, and we'll see if I get an answer this time, or anybody else out there. What has South Pasadena done to belong in the Central Division? What have they done to belong in the Central Division?
They're in the Rio Hondo League, which is in the Central Division. I mean, what is that? What kind of question is that? What have they done to belong in the Central? There's a lot of teams. You could say, what has Walnut done to belong in the Central Division?
Nothing. They shouldn't be in. I
told
you that.
You're going to have a lot of bottom feeder teams
that's not true.
in leagues.
No.
That, you know what?
No,
that's just the way it goes sometimes.
No, it's not. I'm
not
sorry.
Not everybody's going to have a chance to win a championship.
Not under the new system.
Not everybody's going to be competitive.
Yeah, well, not under the new system. Fred,
if you're a 3rd place team in a league, you probably shouldn't win a championship.
Okay.
Matter of fact, you probably shouldn't win a first round.
Well,
game.
that's not true because there's 3rd place teams and at-large teams that make a run every year.
If you want South Pasadena to win a championship, put them in the Mission Valley League, let them win it, let them go win a championship.
Okay.
Maybe they're placed in the wrong league. That's what you're trying to say.
No.
They're in the wrong league.
No.
Put them in the Mission Valley where they can, beat Arroyo and Rosemead and go win a championship.
No.
That's what you
Okay, and then what do you do with the Moore League, Fred?
Huh?
What do you do with the Moore League? What do you do with the Moore League?
Let me ask you this.
Tell Lakewood to just get better? You tell me about the other teams after Long Beach Poly. What do you do with the Moore League?
I'm trying to explain it to you, but
tell
you keep
me.
talking. The Joe Amat,
I keep talking. This guy's screaming at the top of his lungs.
The Joe Amat scenario, which is you place teams in leagues based on sports. There should be a football-only league because football is so big.
Man.
Long Beach Poly should be in a separate league for football only.
Fred, that is pie in the sky.
You're asking for a solution. You just asked me
that is not a legit solution. These freaking sections cannot get these things done on their own. Do you understand that? They barely get it right just leaguing themselves.
I don't think
this takes the ball out of their hands a little bit.
But
thank God.
I don't think it's the right way to do it. I think that way would be the right way.
You had the most obvious scenario situation in CIF history come up this last releaguing time with Monrovia that had won 3 or 4. I guess it was 3 CIF championships in a row in the Mid-Valley Division. The most obvious releaguing thing ever. And what happened? They kept Monrovia. The section kept Monrovia in this league.
You're never,
so don't be sitting here telling me that, we could just re-league it based on football when they can't even get this right.
I mean, might as well we just put Gabrielino in the prep league so they have a chance to win a Division 13
That's
title.
probably what will happen.
I mean,
they'll still have to finish third in their league. They'll still have to finish third in their league.
Teams from the same leagues should be able to go into different playoff divisions because they have a better chance of winning the division. I can't even fathom that. It's just so ridiculous to me.
Well,
but
I'm sorry.
Like I said, people go on the blog. I mean, you've heard this discussion. I mean, I know they're passionate on their stance. I am completely the other way. I'd love to hear what people think about this.
As long as there is such a difference between the haves and the have-nots, even in leagues, even when you go from Charter Oak down to Walnut in the Hacienda League, that was like a 70-8 score tonight. Or when you go from a San Marino down to a Blair, there's no reason why, and Blair's not going to make the playoffs even under the new system because they're not, and neither is Walnut because they're not going to win in their league.
There's no perfect answer.
There's no reason those teams are in the same league. You have this huge growing gap between the haves and the have-nots, and CIF is taking the steps to get rid of that. Fine, and it's a great thing.
You think like this is the greatest solution in the world. I'm saying it's not the best solution. I think, to me, the best solution is to create the leagues by sport, the football-only leagues. I do the same thing for basketball, and I think it is doable. They're doing that already.
Who's going to do it?
They're already doing that in the Catholic leagues, in the Bishop Amat leagues. They're in a different league in baseball than they are football. I mean, different set of teams. And soccer, too. They do it already by sport, and then you go into your playoff divisions, and everything's equitable.
Okay.
It's doable. Now, and if it could come together, that, to me, is a more fair way to do it than what CIF is proposing.
Okay, now what about the section that has the Moore League in it? They've had this problem with Long Beach Poly and the rest of the Moore League for years and years and years and years, and what have they done about it?
Nothing.
Okay, and they had this problem. Hold on, they had this problem with Monrovia and the Rio Hondo League and being in the Mid Valley Division for years, and what did they do about that? Nothing. So don't sit here and tell me that you would trust these same people that have done nothing in those situations to all of a sudden be able to re-league teams based on football, based on basketball, based on baseball. They can't even get doing it all under one umbrella, right? What makes you think that they could sit here and do 6 or 7 individual sports and get that right? That's the problem with the Joe Amat theory. That's the problem with your theory. It cannot. It's pie in the sky. These people can't get it done even as it is now. So CIF is saying, you know what? You can't do it right. We're going to step in and help you out. You can create your leagues how you want, but we're going to make the divisions, the thing we can control, we're going to make the divisions competitive. Okay? If your leagues aren't going to be competitive, if you're going to leave Long Beach Poly in with all these other schools that have nothing in common with Long Beach Poly, if you're going to leave Monrovia in with Blair, if you're going to leave Walnut in with Charter Oak, we'll step in and division them right. Maybe they're not leagued right, but they will be divisioned right. That's a great thing. That needs to happen.
I mean,
that needs to happen.
What I'm saying is all those leagues that you say aren't right. It's always going to be like that. It's always going to be like that because you're grouping these leagues, these teams for the most part, in leagues where they play. You know, they're in the same league for all sports, the majority of them. So you're always going to have scenarios where it's basketball, football, soccer, where you have some teams that are just not competitive in particular sports. I like what they've done in Bishop Amat's league and those leagues where they are doing it by sport. I think it is something, if they really sat and they looked at it, it is something that is more doable than what they're doing now. I don't like I don't like this where you're just, I mean, to me, the league play doesn't matter as much anymore. I felt that way in basketball too. Basketball is even worse, and it's going to be like this, I'm guessing, with other sports too. Basketball was so bad that it didn't matter. You could be 5-25 and get in the playoffs. You could be 0-10.
Basketball's always been like that, though, Fred. It's a 32 team.
Right.
It's a 32 team, and in some divisions, there's only 36 teams in that division. So you're going to get the 4.
It was like that even before this open division thing. It was like that even before that you had 6-win teams that got in as wild cards or whatever.
I'm just looking right now. I'm looking right now, and I don't see anything broken. I think the Pac-5 is great the way it is. You've got the best teams in it. I think the Central Division is a great division, competitive from top to bottom. I think that you look at the Mid-Valley, for those teams that are in it, super competitive division. You know who the best teams are. You go in the Southeast. That's another one. There's going to be great games from the first round on. I think the divisions are in great shape the way they are now with the best teams from those leagues advancing. And for the ones not good enough right now, you're not good enough. And if you don't like it, then they're going to have to figure out a way to change
You just said the Southeast Division is going to have good games from the first round on.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Do you have
For the
any
most
idea
part.
who's going to finish third in the
Well, there's going to be one, but for the most part, there's going to be
more.
There's going to be, the third and fourth place team from the Angeles League is going to give whoever they play a first or second place team.
Yeah,
a great
and
game.
what's the third place team from the Suburban going to do, Fred? Against some league champion, they're going to lose 60 to nothing.
Place team going to do? I mean,
come on.
Yeah, but those last 8 teams, once you get through the first round, those final 8 teams are all going to be great. Once you get through the first round.
Okay, great. I mean, if you could say that about anything under any format. I mean, look.
Well, basically, what you're proposing, Aram, is those
not me that's proposing
those teams that you just said, how are they going to do? Are these? Let's say if there's a 16-team bracket, the 8 teams that are going to go out in the first round. You'd be more comfortable if you took those 8 teams and you put them in a more winnable division, and you took 8 teams from a division they're favored to win and move them up into that division to get these 16 teams together. It's just silly to me.
Well, I'm telling you, the other thing that you're also missing on this is that this allows for, again, upward and downward mobility. You start winning, you start peeling off CIF titles,
where people are
we're going to move you up.
Yeah, where people are going to get pissed is the upward mobility.
Why? Is Sarah pissed that it got moved out of the same division as St. Francis and is now Pac-5?
Let me give you an example.
Is Chaminade pissed?
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
How pissed off would Charter Oak be this year, having a super great year, being number 1 in the Central, if CIF committee got together and said, you know what, they're a little too good. We think that they're good enough to get into the division that Chino Hills and all those are in. We're going to move them in there. They might be the 16th best team in that division.
Right.
But we think we're going to move them out of that division where they're favored to win a championship and make them number 16 here. How's Lou Farrar and Don Farrar going to react to that?
I don't think they'd be 16. And I'll tell you what, when Lou Farrar and Don Farrar complain about that or say, hey, that's not right, you know what CIF's going to tell them?
What?
If it's not right, then in the next year you'll be right back where you were. You'll be back in somewhere else. That's the good news. You'll move. You're not stuck there. If it was too high of a placement for you and you couldn't handle it, the very next year you'll be in somewhere a situation that's better.
The very next year.
It will be because it's going to be year to year.
I just think it's. Really, you're going to tell Charter Oak and them you have a chance to win a championship? We're going to put you in this division. We're number 16.
They make that decision before the season,
right?
So Charter Oak knows what it has to do if they're in division. What would be like division? What is that? Division 3 or 2?
And in basketball, keep in mind that they only do this for one division, the open division, where they pull teams up. You're talking about now with 13 football divisions, if I'm right, Aaron, where guys are moving up and down throughout the divisions. That's going to be weird.
I don't think it's going to be as
dramatic
as fluctuating as you think. I don't think you're going to see, a ton of. I mean, at the very top, I think you probably will see like the D2 champ, like Mission Viejo. Mission Viejo, if the system was in place, I believe would be in the Pac-5 this year. And wouldn't you want to see that? I mean, at least coming into tonight, they were undefeated. They won D2 last year, so let's see them back in the Pac-5. Rather than having Lakewood in there, let's have Mission Viejo in there. Or let's have Vista Murrieta, who I think was the runner-up last year to them. Or let's have some D3 or D4 team that, was capable of competing on a Pac-5 level for, a couple years. Get in there. That's what it allows for. I mean, upward and downward mobility is nothing new. I mean, we've seen Crespi go from D10 all the way up to D1. We've seen South Hills go from D9 all the way to D2. We've seen it. This is all not anything new.
We haven't seen them make those
and
switches.
Now back down.
We haven't seen them make those switches in the middle of a season while a team is having a great year.
We said they're going to do it in the middle of a season.
They're going to do it before.
They do it every year. They do it every year. You'll find out on August 15th. You'll get a letter from Glenn Martinez that says, "Hey Fred, Bishop Amott's in the Southwest Division this year." Okay, and if you go out, they're not going to say 7 weeks into that, "Hey, we screwed up. You're too good. We're moving you back to Pac-5." Right. You'll play out that season in that division, and then if you dominate it, you'll probably be moving to something tougher. coming up, and that's good. That type of stuff is good. It allows for, like I said, upward and downward mobility. I don't know how else to say it.
But a lot of that also, another problem with that is you're going to get in situations where you're getting dragged up. Let's say you had your dream season of your 20 seniors and your franchise year.
I thought about that.
And you won that. And now next year,
they're graduated.
You're going to move them up in a rebuilding year and put them in a division they have no business competing in.
They've graduated. I know what you're saying.
Would be a perfect example this year. Let's say you dragged.
He's using 2 years worth of data. So,
but even 2 years. Those are classes. These things change.
That's
Graduate great teams, and
that's happened in basketball where
a
team has had 3 great years, and that last year
they're moved up. But
the third year they were a bunch of seniors. And then they have some newcomers, and then they're putting in this other division which they can't compete in.
Right. Okay. We should probably wrap this up. Do you want to do biggest surprise or biggest disappointment, or have we?
The biggest disappointment is your rationale in this whole thing. That's my biggest disappointment.
I know what my biggest disappointment is.
What is that?
My biggest
surprise is that Stevie made it back here after that marathon.
My biggest surprise and biggest disappointment is the same thing. This was the worst refs game I've ever seen. There must have been like 35.
Steve, when you're the last game on the schedule, and we've got every score except yours. Then we know it's a.
We still don't even know for sure that Montebello won. Did they win?
Okay. They won 49-32.
Oh, there you have it.
When I was at Cal State Fulton, I took an officiating class, and the one thing they said, there's 2 reasons you call a penalty. One, to protect the player, fear of injury, like a clip or something, or where a team has a competitive advantage, where a hold. But if it doesn't affect the play.
And you had a lot of those tonight?
Yeah, I found
I agree.
A lot of those.
Right.
Yeah. When the receiver catches a ball and he's running 10 yards upfield and there's a hole behind it, it doesn't really affect the play. So
refs, if people know who you are, you're probably not doing a very good job. It's true. If the ref is the most recognizable person in the field that night, he hasn't done his job.
Right.
Look at they brought me a helmet.
Yeah, that's my biggest surprise. Even though I picked San Dimas to win this game, I didn't think it'd be a blowout. I guess you could say that, that also would coincide as biggest disappointment. Covina had another step-up game and really fell flat on its face. You can be forgiving of that because Covina's not yet, to that winning level again, where you're able to count on them to win those types of games. So I would go with that.
Yeah. They've got one more chance next week. Let's see what they do against Northview, if they can bounce back and make that competitive.
Right.
Game.
But like you said,
title, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah, but like you said, if they're not able to handle this game tonight, then what can they handle? This will be a really difficult spot for them. So I don't know. I think that kind of wraps.
Let's wrap it up, big guy.
Yeah, I think that wraps it up.
That was great. Get on the blogs. I really want your thoughts on that last discussion that we have because I'm curious. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If Aram's right and I don't rationalize this right,
I think you're wrong, Fred, but I don't think this is a right or wrong thing. Yeah. Okay, excuse me. I don't think that you're wrong per se. I think I disagree with you. I don't think anyone's right or necessarily wrong here. It's just whether you agree or disagree with, with this thing. But when you compare to the current system and this proposed system, one to me is much better.
All right, Joe Amott, you better get on this blog, and I better hear from you because I used your rationale tonight. I've been waiting for the right time to do it. Tonight I did it, and I've read that stuff that he's put out over the year, and I hope you put it out there again so Aram can read it and we can discuss it.
If he's relying on these sections to league themselves properly, not happening.
I just think that would be a scheduling nightmare if you had.
The nightmare's coming. Aram, how do I turn this thing off?
I'm just saying.